Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name again is Jeffrey Davis, and I continue to interview leaders and entrepreneurs about how people are dealing with this economy, building their businesses. It's all very exciting for me. It's what I love to talk to people about. I find entrepreneurship to be at the core of so much of what happens in this country. Luckily, I'm joined by my favorite guest host, Evan Macedo, VP Finance and Operations at Sapers and Wallack. Welcome back, Evan.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It is a pleasure to be here, and always love being on the show with you.
Great. Thank you, Evan. I appreciate that. Our next guest, Catherine Cappelli, attorney, family formation law, Cappelli Law. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey, and great to meet you. Good to see you, Evan. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, family law is a big part of what we do in this country. It's a very important part of corporate America, of protection of assets, division of assets. So I'm interested in exactly what you do and how you got to this point of your career.
Thank you. Yes, I have a unique niche in family law practice. I certainly started out doing a lot of litigation of divorces and quickly realized that that was not going to be something I was going to enjoy doing, but it was also not something I thought that there was a better way to do this. So I really morphed my practice into doing far more family formation. I'm a trained mediator and a trained collaborative lawyer, so I still will do some dissolution of marriage that way. But if we start to look at these relationships, this very important life transition from the front end, we can put people together and they can do some life planning right on the front end with a prenuptial agreement, or even after they're married with a marital agreement. And people say, oh, well, Kath, that's and that's not very romantic. Let's sit down and do a prenup together. But it can be, especially because I mediate some of them, or I help to negotiate them with another attorney. But it's people coming together and making a life plan. And unless they do that, then they don't necessarily realize that when they're signing that license for a marriage agreement in Massachusetts, they're signing up for all kinds of rules and regulations that they might not really understand or want. Because Massachusetts is an equitable division state. All your property is joint. Do you want to have someone dividing your business that you've established with business partners over a number of years? Do you want to share retirement assets? How do you want to spend your money together? How do you want to invest together? All of those are decisions that you can make on the front end. And it's also a document that's private. It doesn't go to a court, and it is a living document. You can change it over time as your relationship changes, as you have children. So they're really good. You know, we buy insurance policies for everything. Why not protect something as important as your marriage?
Most important partnership in your life.
Right.
And it follows the same rules as a corporate partnership. And I look at businesses and I say, do you have a shareholders agreement? Do you have an operating agreement? If not, you're at the hands of the state and the state laws. And you're saying the same thing. Why let the state decide your life? You can plan out your life in a cooperative manner and protect yourselves in a way that you decide, not in how the government decides. I think that's being smart and proactive, and you have to work with the right people. Why did you get into this field exactly? I mean, because you did carve out a unique niche.
Well, I mean, I was a prosecutor way back when, and I really relished the work that I did prevention-wise, going out and training in the community with police, with school administrators, because I actually focused on domestic violence at the time. So I found that going back into the community and working on prevention was much better than, waiting until it arrived on the courthouse steps for a prosecution. And so I look at this as prevention work. I also, it really is protecting all families. Not everybody ascribes to the institution of marriage. And so I do domestic partner agreements or real estate agreements, because people want to pool their resources, make different kinds of partnerships together, and those can also be, codified. Those can also be put into an agreement that is helpful to them as well. And I also do other, I also help people during other life transitions, when they have children. I work a lot with the LGBT community, and I work a lot with families that face fertility challenges. And actually, I was looking it up today, 33% of all Americans use some form of fertility treatment. And we
Wow.
need, yeah, it's a big number. And we have the highest number of assisted reproduction births in Massachusetts, more than any other state in the country. So it's important that these folks all have legal agreements to protect the family unit, to protect the parents, to protect those children in those families. And, we've had, 40 years of some case law and one statute. And fortunately, I was talking to Evan about this. It's very exciting. This past summer, there was unanimous legislation, bipartisan legislation that was passed in Massachusetts and signed by the governor. It's called the Massachusetts Parentage Act. And it goes into effect January 1, 2025. And it puts together, and clearly defines what makes up a family and who's responsible for the children, who's not responsible for child support. It really protects all families, especially families that are created through assisted reproduction. And we, believe it or not, didn't have statutory protection on the books in Massachusetts. We still don't until January 1, but it's really important legislation, and I'm really glad to have that protection for families, and to be able to have new paths for parentage.
That's a nice story, and I'm glad you shared it with all of us. It makes me feel good about being in Massachusetts. Many things do. Evan, did you have a follow-up question? We've kept you quiet long enough.
It's hard to keep me quiet these days, Jeffrey. Yeah, Catherine, I wanted to ask, you do a lot of work in the gender affirmation space, making sure that people's identity is being changed in all the appropriate areas, which people are very grateful for all your work in that field. Can you speak a little bit more about maybe some of the challenges in the gender affirmation space and how you're really helping to help your clients get through that somewhat tough and confusing process?
Sure. Thanks for asking that. Gender affirmation is also a large part of my practice. That's another important life transition for a person. I work with both adults and with parents for their children in making gender transitions. They are certainly doing all of their own social transitions, but it's important for someone who is transitioning their gender to have identification documents that align with their gender identity. So that starts with a name change in the court. And then with that legal name change, you can then change all of your identification documents when it's appropriate to do so. Your real ID, your driver's license, your social security card, and your birth certificate. And it's important, no one wants to have documents that are not aligned, and to be misgendered. So it's important to make sure that I guide them through that process, both on the state level and on the federal level, and also protect the privacy for those folks, because typically when you go in for a name change in the courts, it's a public proceeding, and I work with legal motions to make that a private and confidential proceeding, because some people change their name because they want to avoid their creditors, and the courts certainly don't want that to happen. But we file affidavits that that's not why they're doing this, and we avoid going through a publication because we don't want to have someone's private history, out there for everyone to see.
Wow. So much and so little time. this really sort of reflects on this interview. We've been speaking with Catherine Cappelli, attorney, family law, foundation, formation law, Cappelli Law. Sorry about that. Catherine, if English is not my second language, so you can imagine how bad I am at other languages. I flunked French 18 years in a row. Catherine, if somebody wants to find you and get your assistance, and I've thought about a few people I know right now who could be using your help, how would they find you?
LinkedIn or www.cappellilaw.com.
Great. And my trusty co-host, Evan, you remember people reach out to you all the time about Sapers and Wallack and also radio entrepreneurs. How can we find you?
Well, you can go to our website, which is sapers-wallack.com. Click on the Our Team page. You'll see me and the rest of our advisors. We'd be very happy to talk to you on your wealth management, employee benefit, and executive benefit needs.
And I make it easy on everyone. If you see my bottom corner, you can find either, you can scan your phone for Mage, my management consulting firm. That's not just mine. And also Radio Entrepreneurs. That way you don't even have to think about it, which is the way I like to do things in life. So Catherine, I want to thank you for being on the show today. Evan, I look forward to seeing you again on Radio Entrepreneurs.